Another one that I think is really important, another benefit of attending a camp, is getting an evaluation. And again, as a young player, not really sure what level I can play at, don't know really much about levels. Going to an elite camp or a showcase that provides an evaluation of your game can really help you, number one, kind of figure out, okay, this is where I can play, or maybe I'm not there yet and I'm not good enough to play at a level or what have you. But it also will say, hey, these are the things I need to work on as a player and address in my game and focus on in my offseason. Dreaming of playing college basketball? The recruiting process can be overwhelming, but with Net Results Recruiting, you're not alone. My name is Steve Schafer. I'm the founder and president of Net Results Recruiting, a full-service basketball recruiting solution based in Arizona. I spent 21 years coaching college basketball at 3 different levels, decided to get out of coaching because I really wanted to start something that's truly going to help players, families navigate the college basketball recruiting process. There's a lot of companies out there, but I don't know that they all do the things that Net Results Recruiting provides. Our goal is to find options for players that are the right fit at the right level so players can have a great experience playing college basketball. College recruiting is competitive. If you're not getting the exposure you need, you could be missing out on opportunities. Coaches can't recruit you if they don't know who you are. At Net Results Recruiting, we take the guesswork out of the process by providing a complete recruiting solution, including a personalized recruiting profile that has the right information that college coaches want to see, an evaluation of your game to help us assess what levels you can play at, and a tool to help you improve your game, a player priority list that allows your recruiting expert to understand what is important to you when considering potential college options, promotion to college coaches, and a huge network of college coaching contacts to maximize your exposure. And finally, expert guidance and advice throughout your recruitment journey. Don't leave your future to chance. Get started today with Net Results Recruiting and take control of your basketball journey. Your dream, your future, let's make it happen together.
Welcome to the Recruiting Assist, brought to you by Net Results Recruiting. My name is Matt Bright, Regional Director for Net Results. Joining us as always is our President and Founder, Steve Schafer from sunny Arizona. What's going on, Coacher?
Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm good. We got a very pertinent topic tonight, camps, and it is that time of year. High school season's over, club season's going on, but there's always lots of camps.
Yeah. And kids are getting bombarded with camp invites about this time. So what better time to talk about, elite camps and showcases, and are they worth going to, and just navigating that whole process. Because we get a lot of families that we work with that have questions about camps, and it's one of the things we do at Net Results is we navigate them through those invites and in those camps and make sure they're not wasting money, that they're utilizing their money and their time wisely and going to camps that make sense for their players. So yeah, excited for the topic and excited to dive into it.
Yeah, and for those of you listening, this however long we yak for can save you money. This is not here to bash camps. There are some great camps that we're going to talk about, but just doing your due diligence, and we'll give you some things to look for with that. So kind of the 2 big camps that are out there, Shafe, are elite camps and showcase camps. What's kind of, let's talk about those, like timelines and kind of what's the difference. So where do you want to start?
Yeah, like elite camps are generally in the spring and summer. There'll be some in the fall, but most of them are spring and summer. And they're put on by college coaching staffs and universities and college programs. They're on their campuses, in their facilities. And again, if a college is sincerely recruiting you, and we'll get into this later in the podcast, but if they're sincerely recruiting you and you've got a relationship with that program and they have a need for your position and you're invited to that camp, it's potentially a really good thing to go to, because it gives the player an opportunity to get on their campus, see their campus, see the facilities, meet their staff, develop that relationship, and get some really good instruction from college coaches. So that's what an elite camp is. We'll talk more about the details of that. A showcase is usually something that happens. It could happen anytime during the year. It's usually put on by a third party. The location can vary. They'll use college campuses. They'll just use random independent facilities, potentially high schools and stuff like that. And there could be a ton of kids at it. You're going to wear a number. A lot of times it's just a lot of playing. You're just going to play a lot. Some have some instruction and some drill work, but most of them you're just going to get a number, get a jersey, and go out there and play and be on a team. And there could be college coaches there. It just depends on the showcase and who's running it.
Yeah, and so that's something that is big on whatever you go to is exposure. And I know we're gonna talk about that of what you need to look for. Exposure is probably the biggest one out of all of them. Of just because you go to an elite camp at school X, that doesn't mean that there won't be other schools there. And there may be other schools there. You and I have firsthand knowledge of this. We used to work at Division I camp here in St. Louis, and there weren't that many D1 players at that camp, but there was plenty of D2, NAI, JUCO, D3 guys, and we were there specifically for that reason. They invited us there to work their camp and to see those other players. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that, of like the exposure piece of both these type of events.
Yeah, I think one of the 4 big benefits to attending a showcase or a elite camp is exposure, like you're saying. And to me, that's the most important, right? Because at the end of the day, especially if you're an upperclassman, you need to get your name and information out in front of college coaches. And what better way to go to a camp where there's going to be a lot of coaches there to be able to evaluate you and watch you play. So, yeah, I mean, that's the number one thing. And, but again, we'll get into, what to watch out for, but the biggest benefit is exposure. Like there's a camp, there's a high academic camp out east that a lot of our players have attended. And a lot of high academic small college coaches work the camp. Centennial, UAA, NESCAC, NUMAC, Liberty League coaches are at that camp working as counselors, coaching a team. And I mean, there's 40 or 50 college coaches at that high academic camp. And if you're a high academic kid and want to go to a high academic school, like that's the type of camp that you should go to, because you're going to be in front of a ton of coaches. And every kid that's been to that camp that's worked with us has come out of there with some really good opportunities and coaches that have really recruited them. So like that's the example of a camp that is worth going to, but it would only make sense for a kid that fits that sort of academic description and wants that sort of college student athlete experience.
Yep. And speaking of that, like it's usually, depending on which one we're talking about, there's one that's an Ivy League school, right, that puts a camp on, but they have all those other ones there. So if you just looked at the name alone, you would think, oh, it's just this one school, where they would know looking, oh, there's going to be 50 coaches there, not just this one Ivy League staff. And then there is another one that's specifically called the High Academic Showcase, where all those coaches are there as well. So that's one. Another one to look for when you're looking at camps is experience, right? What is the level of players you're going to be playing against? What is maybe it's a dream school and you want to, I want to make a basket in Rupp Arena and it's at KU's camp. I know I can't play for Kentucky, but I want to just score a basket there in Rupp Arena. Hey, I mean, that's good for you. Going there, being realistic. What else do you think for an experience for a kid looking at a camp?
Yeah, I think if you're a young player, you're a freshman, and you're just getting into the high school level, and you haven't played a lot. I think, going to a camp like that for a week, playing against some really good competition, can help with a lot of, you get some good, valuable game experience against some quality opponents. And so I think if you're a young player, a value of going to a camp or a showcase is to just get more game experience because you got to play more, right? So I think that club ball has addressed that for every level because you're going to play, 60 games between the spring and summer, maybe that many, but a ton of games. So maybe experience camp experience isn't as prevalent as it was in the past, but that would be another like reason why I think experience is valuable, or a camp is valuable for young players to get some valuable game experience. Another one that I think is really important, another benefit of attending a camp, is getting an evaluation. And again, as a young player, not really sure what level I can play at, don't know really much about levels. Going to an elite camp or a showcase that provides an evaluation of your game can really help you, number one, kind of figure out, okay, this is where I can play, or maybe I'm not there yet and I'm not good enough to play at a level or what have you. But it also will say, hey, these are the things I need to work on as a player, and address in my game and focus on in my off season. So I think if there's a lot of great camps out there that provide evaluations from quality, knowledgeable coaches. And that's a really good value of going to a camp is getting that evaluation.
And to piggyback on that, some people think an evaluation is some person there who writes a sentence or two about this kid online, and they take it as gospel. Like that person is probably doing that for every kid at the camp and watches them for 2 seconds and wait till they do something. Oh, this kid is dynamic off the bounce because they saw him beat one kid, and even though the kid turned it over the last 12 times they touched it, but they see that. So who's doing that evaluating? Like you said, a reputable coach, somebody that's in the know, versus Joe Schmo out there who's just there watching and just trying to crank out as many of these evaluations, quote unquote, that they can during that time. And then kind of the last thing to look for in a camp is expertise, right? Are you going for, back in our day, and the one that stood out to me was Pete Newell's big man camp, right? Yeah. That you went there to learn specific set of skills. There's point guard camps, there's this, there's that, there's shooting camp, whatever. But is there something that is really focused in this camp that you're attending that they're really going to work on? Is it a facet of the game, something that coaching staff may teach, the way they play that may be different, or something they really value that you're really going to work on, the wing ball screen, because that's really big in their offense. They're going to work on high-low. They're going to work on Princeton, whatever it is, that you're going to learn skills that are applicable to your game and what you do.
Yeah. And I think my perspective on the value of camps and whether it's worth attending, the benefits, and again, this can be debatable depending on who you talk to. But for me, like if you're a young player, you're a junior high player, you're a freshman, going to camps can be really valuable, again, for that expertise, for that evaluation, and to get some experience. I think there's not a lot. I mean, it doesn't matter what camp it is. If it's a quality camp and it's going to provide those things, and you're a young player, camp's valuable. I mean, I think it's a valuable camp, right? But if you're a junior or senior, if you're an upperclassman and you're trying to get to the next level and stuff like that, and you're getting recruited to some level, to me, the only reason to go to a camp is for exposure purposes. You're gonna, at that point, you should know what level you are. You should know what your weaknesses and your strengths are, and you should be working on those things. At that point, you played a million games. You don't need it for the experience. Expertise, maybe. If you're a big kid, you need some to get polished and some extra additional work. Then maybe expertise. I can see that for an older player. But the main reason an upperclassman is a 26 or a 25 or should be going to a camp is for exposure. To me, that's my perspective and what I would encourage players and tell our players, why go to camp.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah. So probably the most important part of this podcast for parents, for making sure they're spending money wisely. And so there's a lot of camps out there, unfortunately, that are straight cash grabs. They're just looking to get into your pockets. What are some tip-offs or some red, maybe for some parents, listen of what to look out for when it comes to a camp for their son or daughter?
Yeah, well, you named the first one, the money grab camp, right? There's a lot of those out there, money grab elite camps, money grab showcases. And we're not going to name names of schools, but one big tip off, one thing that can tip off I would say a money grab camp is when you receive an email from a college coach and there's no personalization whatsoever in that camp invite, and it looks like a form email. and you can tell it's a money grab camp invite. You know, they probably got your name from an event they went to, they plugged it into their system, and they mass emailed out everybody that played in that tournament, inviting them to their elite camp or their showcase. And again, the reason why it's a money grab is that usually that camp is a way to pay their assistants some additional money, or to maybe fundraise for their program. So they utilize camps to bring in as many kids as they can to make money, right? And so, and I'm not saying every kid going to that camp isn't, you know, maybe I'll say this, there's a camp out here, they're going to bring in 120 kids to camp. They might be recruiting 5 of them or be looking at 5 of them. So they got 105 kids at that camp. They have no interest in recruiting, will not recruit, but because it's a big name camp, you know, that family thinks, oh man, they got invited to this. They're interested in my son. We need to go to that, you know, and it's not the case. And I think there's a lot of parents out there that convince themselves that school's recruiting their son or daughter, and so they should go to that camp. And it's not the case. And that's where I think net results and having someone in your corner that knows the process can help you navigate those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great point. And on top of that, some of these showcases, like you said, they just shotgun blast these things out, and they'll take as many people that will sign up as possible, because they're not going to, you're a name when you come in and they check you off and give you your shirt or whatever they give you and see ya. Thanks for your donation that day. You know, maybe we should have ran some of these money grab camps when we coached, Schafe. I would have had a few more dollars in my pockets paying assistants.
Yeah.
We were running any of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, another thing to watch out for is like the overcrowded showcases or the showcases that are ran during the high school season, or maybe like in early April, you know, sometime in April, you know, mid-April, or, you know, in the fall. You know, I'm not saying all those camps are money grabs or not, you know, valuable, but the majority of them, if it's at that time of year, the reason to go to a showcase generally is because college coaches are going to come and you're going to get great exposure. At that time of year, not college, Division 1s and 2s can't be out, you know, in April. Women's can for one weekend, they have a live period, but guys can't, you know, well, D1 and D2s can, D3s and NAIs can be out anytime they want. But, you know, if it's during the high school year, I mean, the kids are in their season, colleges are in their season, no one's going to that. So, you know, I think the time of year that the showcase is held, that's something to look out for, because if it's not like in the summer, in the late spring, around like maybe the Final Four, where coaches in that, like if there's a showcase going on in Nebraska and the Final Four is in San Antonio and the women's is in Tampa, probably not going to have any coaches or many at that showcase, right? So I think the time of year, the location, and who's running it is something to really watch out for. As far as showcases are concerned in camps.
And with that, this is a fair question to ask who's ever reaching out to you. Who's going to be in attendance? Who is verified? Who's coming? What college coaches are going to be there that have confirmed, you know, or who were the coaches that were there last year? Can you send me your list? And if you hear crickets, there's your answer. But making sure that there are going to, because as you said before, and we're going to reiterate a whole bunch, exposure is the number one thing for these camps of who's going to be there. And like, as you said, are the right levels going to be there to see you? If you're a Division II NAI player, right, are those type of coaches going to be there? If you're a D3 player, our D3 coach is going to be there, you know, just because it's held at one of those. So getting that list of who's coming, who's been there in the past, for certain, if they can't provide that for you, that should be a red flag.
Yeah. And I think cost versus value trade-off is important, right? Like, how much is it going to cost me to go to this camp? Do I need to get a hotel? Do I have to fly there? You know, how far away is it? What are the fees to get in? You know, all those things matter, because if it's a showcase and it's 5 hours away and it's a 2-day thing, you better make sure there's verified coaches that are going to be there and there's schools at a level you can play at, because the amount of money you're going to spend could be in the thousands and the return on that investment could be zero, right? So I think that's a big piece that families need to consider as well when they're looking at camps and something to look out for. So, I mean, the big thing is this, like, there are Division I schools that are going to invite players to their camp that can't play at that level. And there's a lot of parents out there that just don't understand levels or understand, what it takes and have a skewed opinion of what their kid is potentially. And they get the invite from that D1 and it's that we're going because it's a chance for my son or daughter to get in front of that staff. And we know he or she's good enough. So let's go and show those coaches. Right. And that school may be portal transfer heavy and have, 15 kids on the roster and 11 of them are transfers and they don't really recruit high school kids. They may not need that kid's position for the next, recruiting class, and they may not even know who the kid is, right? But again, there's so many parents, and I'm saying this with all due respect, but I think most parents would agree with me. They've been able to give their son or daughter whatever they've wanted through their sports experience, right? And they got to understand that there are going to be schools that are going to tell your son or daughter no. Like, we are not going to recruit your son. We're not going to recruit your daughter. Not a fit, not good enough, not what we need, whatever the case may be. And they have to be okay with that. And they can't force a school to recruit their kid and just show up to a camp and think that camp's going to get that kid to that school. It just doesn't work that way, right? So they got to be really careful with the time and the money they spend and what kind of return on investment they're going to get. And for us, that's why we do an evaluation as part of our process, so we can assess what level a kid can play at. That's why if they get a camp invite that they're excited about, we'll talk them through that camp and tell them if it's worth going to or not, and potentially call that staff and say, hey, what are your needs for this class? And do you know who this kid is? And if so, is he a kid that you think can play at your level? And find those things out before they pull the trigger and invest in a camp that may not be, worth their time or money.
Yeah, that's a big one, is they know who the kid is before you show up.
Yeah.
One of my kids that just signed at your alma mater, he went to a different camp last summer, and the dad, we had talked, and they had talked to that kid over the phone leading up to it. So I was like, all right, there's a relationship. When he walked in, he's like, they didn't know who he was, even though they had talked to him on the phone. He was really strange. So that was like that was one that was really strange to me, because I had said that kid's name to him, like, oh yeah. And then when he got there, he's like, they acted like they didn't know him. Yeah. So I don't know if there's just miscommunication between the staff or whatever, but that's important. They know who you are going in, because then they're going to watch you with a little closer eye. And at a lot of these showcases, people think it's showcase like it's my time. The ball movement in these things is not necessarily the greatest thing. So if you're a kid that is a spot up shooter and you're great at coming off screens in one of these things, you're probably not going to shine if you got the wrong backcourt mate with you that's hogging the thing the whole thing and trying to get to the hole every single time and just making crazy plays. Yeah. So like, that's something that's really important, of them knowing who you are before you walk in the door.
Yeah. Basketball players, are you grinding in the gym but struggling to get noticed by college coaches? Your talent deserves the right exposure, and that's where Net Results Recruiting comes in. Whether you're in high school, junior college, or prep school, we help you connect with college programs, get you promoted to college coaches, and receive expert guidance throughout your recruitment journey. Don't leave your future to chance. Get exposure, get guidance, get results. Let our team find your team. Visit netresultsrecruiting.com today and take the next step towards your college basketball dream.